The Formula One 2026 season is getting silly day by day. And the most important question we have right now is Max Verstappen moving to Mercedes? Hi, my name is Tanya and welcome back to my channel Project Podium. I have done intensive research about the whole Max Verstappen to Mercedes switch, and this is what I have come up with. Well, right now it's all just rumors, but it's going to be the most important point of discussion at Spa this weekend, especially after we have Horner out of Red Bull. The spotlight has shifted to Max, Toto, Wolff and Russell, a storyline straight out of a soap opera and not exactly easy to decode. So, let's try to make sense out of this. Sky Italia dropped a midnight scoop on Tuesday night, claiming that negotiations between Max Verstappen and Mercedes are basically done. So does this mean that we should expect an announcement soon? Not necessarily. At least not from the looks of it. Because if you see Sky UK, yes, also from the Sky team, has a different perspective. They are being much more cautious. According to them, nothing is finalized yet. So let's try to understand what's really going on step by step. The first step is actually a very interesting one. It's between Charles Leclerc and James Vowles. Confusing, right? Because we were just talking about Max Verstappen and Mercedes. Then why am I bringing Charles Leclerc and James Vowles right now? Listen closely, because honestly, it's going to make sense. In Austria, during the press conference, Leclerc talked about the 2026 car. He admitted that he didn't really like the early laps he did on the simulator. The car felt odd to drive. Charles does not like it. Nothing shocking so far. We know the 2026 regulations are a bit unusual. Active aerodynamics, an increased hybrid component, weird battery recharging strategies. It's all a part of this new package. But here's where things get interesting. Let's fast forward a little bit. This time, it's James Vowles, team principal of Williams Racing. Speaking in his press conference, he was asked about Leclerc's comments, and while I won't quote him word to word, here's the essence of what he said. Ferrari is probably still in the early stages of their virtual car model. We've been through the same thing at Williams. At first, the drivers complain, then things improve. Now we know Williams has been focusing on the 2026 car for a while, so it's possible that their virtual car is developed more than the other teams. The model is more mature, hybrid strategies more refined, and so on. That explains James's comments. But there's another key point. Williams and Ferrari do not have the same power unit. Williams will be powered by Mercedes, and it's rumored in the paddock for a while now that Mercedes' 2026 power unit is shaping very well. So, could it be that Williams' virtual car feels stronger simply because it has a better engine? Maybe it's an engine that manages energy more efficiently and doesn't need complex recharging strategy. In 2026, the four teams using Mercedes' power unit is Mercedes, McLaren, Williams and Alpine. These teams could start off with a significant advantage, a big enough edge that it might be nearly impossible for other teams to catch up, at least in the first season under the new laws. This could apply to Ferrari too. Though the early reports on their 2026 power unit aren't that alarming, but here's where things really get heat up. This could be a major problem for Audi and Red Bull Ford. Both are essentially new engine manufacturers and they're set to be behind in development. And who drives for Red Bull? A certain Max Verstappen. Now you understand why I started the whole thing with Leclerc and the stimulator. Mercedes power unit ahead, Red Bull power unit behind. And we've been hearing about Toto Wolff's interest in Max Verstappen since last year. It all starts to connect, doesn't it? So let's take a look at where things stand right now. Here's an overview of key players. Christian Horner is out. George Russell, driving incredibly well this season. His contract with Mercedes expires at the end of 2025. He always said he wants to renew his contract, but at the same time, George is realistic. He didn't shy away from saying he would understand if Mercedes wanted Max Verstappen. After all, everyone knows how amazing Max Verstappen is. And here's something most fans don't know. The Mercedes Formula One team isn't fully owned by Mercedes. Only 33% belongs to Daimler-Benz Mercedes. Another 33% is owned by Toto Wolff, and the final 33% that belongs to Ineos, the British chemical company, which by the way has been struggling a bit financially. In fact, I don't know if you've noticed, Ineos have disappeared from the 2025 Mercedes. So, while the words of Mercedes CEO carry just 1/3 of the actual decision-making power within the team, the fact that the team is still called Mercedes, Well, maybe his words count for more than one third. At the Spanish Grand Prix, the CEO said that it's Mercedes' responsibility to build a car that attracts champions. At that point, he said he could really see a silver Max Verstappen, a Max dressed in silver. Then we have two key players in the whole story. First up, Toto Wolff. Toto has said everything and its opposite in recent months. He never denied being interested in Max, nor denied having informal chats with his management. But he's also claimed that it's not a real flirtation, like saying, yeah, we text but we're just friends, that kind of energy. At the same time, he's consistently said he's happy with Russell and Antonelli pairing. Still, Toto wants the driver market wrapped up before the end of summer. And here's the interesting part. If any driver by the end of summer is left without a seat, does he have enough time to find another option? Because if you were 100% sure that you're keeping your two drivers, you wouldn't feel the need to add, just in case someone wants to leave, I want them to have time to find something else. And then finally, we have the big one, the centerpiece of this whole saga. Max Verstappen, the most unreadable, unpredictable figure in the story. Max seems to have reached his limit with the media circus around Formula 1. If you follow F1, you know this. He hates all the off-track drama nonsense. He just wants to race, drive, and win. This is it. He couldn't care less about the rest. He didn't even show up at the premiere of the new Formula 1 movie. After retiring from the Austrian Grand Prix, he didn't stay and watch the race. Instead, he turned on the 24 hours of Spa. In case you didn't know, Max actually had a team racing at Spa called Verstappen.com Racing Team, which also, by the way, won that weekend. Anyway, Verstappen just wants to drive, he enjoys racing in Formula 1, yes, but everything else, boring. And when he was asked about all these rumors, Max simply said that in 2025, he's focused on driving, he'll think about the future later, and he'll make the decision himself. So what does this mean? Basically, nothing. But of course, we all want to reach some kind of conclusion, right? As I mentioned earlier in this video, everything suddenly escalated after Sky Italia dropped their latest scoop. This is where things get really interesting because it's no longer just speculation. Now you're in full-on thriller mode with conflicting reports and dark corners. Sky Italia claims that Max Verstappen has already reached an agreement with Toto Wolff. It's not signed yet, nothing finalized, but the deal is in the essential zone, except for one final approval. Also, let's remember that Christian Horner has just left Red Bull. Now, why was he removed from Red Bull? He was literally fired. When they announced that Christian Horner, who has been in Red Bull since Red Bull's day one, is out of Red Bull, they did not say that they came to mutual agreement. They said that he is fired. Now, why is he fired? There are two reasons. First reason, because he could not hold up Max Verstappen to move to Mercedes, and so many other key players have been out of Red Bull in the past 1 year. Second reason, because they wanted Max Verstappen in Red Bull, but the Max camp did not want Horner in Red Bull. It's insane, right? I know. And listen to this, because it's gonna get more wild. There are reportedly some figures at Mercedes who believe it's pointless to sign Max Verstappen, especially if the 2026 car turns out to be as dominant as predicted. Their logic? If the car is truly that good, then Russell and Antonelli will be enough. So why go out of the way and get Max Verstappen? Which honestly I think kind of makes sense. So, Mercedes has strong drivers, but this position seems to clash a bit with what Mercedes CEO Ola wants. He's supposedly in favor of signing Max Verstappen. And since he is a CEO, the guy who really calls the shots, he should be able to convince the rest of the board without too much effort. But then other reports tell another story. Some claim it was actually the Verstappen camp that approached Mercedes, but not with 2026 in mind, rather 2027. The idea being, let's see who gets the new regulations right and then we'll decide, which also kind of makes sense. So Max could say, let's see how 2026 plays out and then I'll choose the fastest car for 2027. That one, fast one, boom, I'm right there. Something like that. So what would he do in 2026? Now this is what I personally feel he is going to do. He is going to take a sabbatical for 1 year. Enjoy time with his daughter and race in GT. He's got a car in the GT Challenge with Verstappen.com Racing. But let's try to get to the truth. Honestly, only they know. And it's likely the truth lies somewhere in the middle. Why do I say that? Because something did seem to happen in Austria. That's more or less certain. And considering Toto Wolff has always shown interest in Max, and if he were 100% sold on Russell, he would have already renewed his contract and announced it in Silverstone. But did he? No. One could think the push didn't come from Toto, but from Max's side. You see what I mean? Maybe Max's management started to take these talks with Toto a bit more seriously. Why? Because Red Bull seems to be in a decline. Without Max, it would be a midfield car, or at the very least, a car so hard to drive it would need a mega champion just to go fast, not even if it is there to win. Which makes it not all that appealing to top tier drivers. So from Max's point of view, it makes sense to look around, especially if he and his team think the title winning days at Red Bull are over, at least for now. But now let's talk what I think is the key factor. George Russell. In my opinion, Russell is the real catalyst here. Let me explain. If Mercedes is truly on the verge of being dominant in 2026, so much so that Russell wins the title or fights for it till the end, then who's to say they'll even want Max in 2027? I mean, if Russell becomes world champion in 2026, which team in the right mind would kick him out? Or worse, get rid of Antonelli, their homegrown talent? Makes no sense. So the whole point is, wait until 2026 and then we'll see. Plan suddenly seems flawed. Because if the car is already winning next year, then in 2027 there might not be a seat available at all. Which would explain why Verstappen camp might have decided to speed things up now. They realize that the time to strike is now, before Russell becomes untouchable within the team. And this could also work perfectly for Toto Wolff. Imagine having a driver like Max Verstappen, someone who can win you a title without the best car. Just keep him within 2/10 of the top and he'll do the rest. We've seen it. Look at this year. Max is third in the standings with a Red Bull that, when driven by Sonoda, gets lapped twice in Austria. Twice. So, if Max Verstappen actually ends up at Mercedes in 2026, just think about the chaos that would unfold. Where does Russell go? He's a top tier driver. What does he do? Go to Red Bull. Might as well let himself on fire. Aston Martin? Okay. But whose seat does he take? Stroll's? The whole team was built around his dad. Alonso? That doesn't mean Alonso gets screwed just as he's about to possibly drive an Adrian Newey designed car. And if Russell doesn't go to Red Bull, who does? Can Red Bull really end up without a top driver? Would they go for Charles Leclerc? Or maybe the McLaren driver who loses the internal battle? Like Lando, who might want a change of scenery? Because I think that Piastri is winning championship this year. And if McLaren loses a seat, how many drivers do you think would be on the phone with Andrea Stella in a heartbeat? You see? It would be an absolute chaos. A real silly season earthquake. So yeah, this is the entire Mercedes Formula One Verstappen drama. We have a new race coming up at Spa. Let's see what happens and let's see what kind of questions Max Verstappen and Toto Wolff are asked and what kind of answers they give. Then we will probably have a much clearer idea. But this is what I feel is happening in the world of Formula One and Max Verstappen right now. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching the video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe.